What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel. This is your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And I just wanted to do a follow-up on my 31 Days of Horror that I think I started in mid-September. And I actually picked all these titles on a live stream. And I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. I wanted to follow up because I did not watch all 31 of these. In fact, what did I watch? I think I've got 11 titles to show off today that I watched. So I watched 11 out of 31. So I failed pretty miserably. And I did start in like mid to late September all the way through October. But I do want to point out that I just did a ranking video of October titles where I rank like 24 titles. So I was watching a lot of newer stuff and I just did not have time to get to a lot of this older stuff in my collection. I wanted to. I mean, you guys know this. Like when it comes to physical media, my eyes are definitely bigger than my stomach in a lot of ways. And it's like I'll pick all these titles out and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to watch all these. I'm gonna make time to watch them. Somehow I just won't sleep. And then I just don't. Life gets in the way, and it gets hard sometimes, guys, especially when you got the YouTube channel. I've got a full-time job, and I can't dedicate like an entire day to watching movies. I wish I could. At most, like I try to watch one a day. And sometimes I can get two in there. Sometimes I can get two in there, depending on the length of the film. Also, like if my wife's willing, which she actually watched a few of these with me. We actually talked about some of these in a video on our channel. So go subscribe to Mary with Media if you want her thoughts as well. It's just difficult. Okay. So I wanted to basically come on here and just take ownership of my failure. Take ownership of my failure. I set myself up to watch 31. I got you guys excited. Oh, you're gonna watch this movie for the first time, this movie for the first time. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Not that I won't get to some of those at some point. I will. I plan to get to everything in my collection at some point, guys. It may seem impossible, but especially since I'm adding stuff all the time. But I'll get to it at some point. I mean, I've currently got a criterion list going that I may or may not have already put out a video for. I don't know if I'm going to put this one out. I should probably put this one out first and then do the criterion one. So that might be what I do. But yeah, I've got 11 movies. Just wanted to kind of briefly give my thoughts on each one and just kind of wrap up my spooky season watching. So before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And just know that I'm a failure, guys, and I apologize. Sometimes, like, we aspire to be the best that we can be, and we just come up short. And that happened to me in the month of October. But I did watch some cool movies that I wanted to talk about, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the first one, Tales from the Hood. This is a nice Scream Factory edition right here that has some great commissioned artwork. You got the front, you got the back. So believe it or not, I mean, I grew up in the 90s and I remember when this movie came out. I remember it being at the video store. I remember it coming on TV. I never watched this movie in its entirety. I always just watched parts of it, I think, when I was a kid. So I knew I wanted to watch this and it took me way too long. Look at that, guys. You got the original poster as the reversal, which is freaking fantastic. So I knew I wanted to check this one out in this month. And this is one of my favorites that I watched this month for sure. I love anthology horror films. This one to me, like every one of them was good. Like I liked usually you'll have one that's like, it doesn't quite hit and you're like, oh, that one kind of sucked. This one didn't really have any that sucked. It had some that were a little bit lesser than others. But even the wraparound was probably the best. With God, I forget that actor's name, but he was so good in that role. Welcome to hell. Like it's such a great ending to the movie too. David Allen Greer is in this film, which I thought was fantastic. I love the puppets segments as well. Just a really solid horror anthology. That does have definitely has some political themes and undertones in it, but I didn't think that they were too heavy-handed. I didn't think they were so overt. They were exactly the right amount that needed to be in a movie like this. And I think it worked. I do. I thought the filmmakers were great. This is a really great addition. Was it two people that directed this movie? No, it's directed by Rusty Cundiff. But when I watched the special feature, I think Darren Scott was in it with him because it was written by Darren Scott and Rusty Cundiff. So I watched the special feature, and this is like a documentary The Making of Tales from the Hood, which features interviews with everybody on the movie. I think it's about 50 minutes long too. So this was back in the era where Screen Factory was just doing some great stuff with special features. So really solid addition. If you haven't got your hands on Tales from the Hood, it was going for like $12 on Amazon. So absolute steal. The Blu-ray looked great, and I would 100% recommend it. I don't know if we'll ever get a 4K of Tales from the Hood. Next up, Carnival of Souls. I just talked about this in a Criterion recommendation, but this was one of the ones that I watched, one of the boutiques that I included in my 31 Days of Horror. So I'll talk about it again very briefly. Again, I've already given my thoughts. I like the movie. I didn't love the movie, but I liked it and I appreciated it. And this movie came out in 1962, so it was pre-Eraserhead, and it definitely gives off those Eraserhead vibes. It's also pre-Night of the Living Dead. So there's a lot in this movie that I think would go on to inspire better movies, but you can't discount the contributions to the horror genre that Carnival of Souls had. Like, this is definitely has some great horror atmosphere, and leans into like the ambient noises and sounds and just the eerie, uncomfortable imagery, like all throughout the movie. Like, it was doing things that I don't feel like a lot of horror films at this time were doing. And there's some genuinely like creepy moments and, like I said, imagery in this movie that definitely put it over the top. But I enjoyed Carnival of Souls. This is one that, like, look, I've talked about this recently. I think if I've already put in my Breakfast Club review, but like Criterion's, like, the Blu-ray always looks great. So it's like, if this came out in 4K, I would feel no reason to upgrade this. I would have no reason to upgrade it. It's a 4K digital transfer. It's a 78-minute long movie, and it's black and white. I'm sure the HDR can maybe do something to enhance it, but that's even if they included HDR, because Criterion doesn't always do that. So I think that this Blu-ray is perfect. If they did this in 4K, I wouldn't get it. Unless they added new features or something like that. But Carnival of Souls is a really solid Criterion release. It's Criterion sale month, so I do recommend it. Next up, we have Waxwork. I did not watch Waxwork 2 because, to be honest, I did not love Waxwork, so I didn't want to jump into the sequel. And this was one of the last ones that I watched. So I did intend to watch both, and I only got around to watching the first one. Maybe the second one's better. I appreciated what Waxwork did. It was very creative, just in how it's kind of brought back. It's really like almost like a Monster Squad type movie, where it's bringing like these notable characters into reality, and kind of, they're going into different worlds, different dimensions through this Waxwork museum. So it's an interesting movie, and they bring people like from different time periods. It's kind of a period piece in parts as well, back to their worlds. So, I've seen movies like this before, but I feel like this movie, when it came out, was probably pretty creative and unique. And this one came out in 1988. So yeah, Waxwork it was a cool movie. I don't know. I didn't gravitate towards it, I guess, like I did some of the other movies that I watched. Definitely one of my least favorites of the ones that I watched this month, but still not a bad movie. It's just, I don't know. I just didn't really. Zach Galligan, like, I don't know. He's not a great leading man. Like, he's great in Gremlins, and that's pretty much it that I've seen him in. So, and he's actually in the sequel as well. Let's talk about Body Bags from Scream Factory. Look at this, guys. Look at the artwork on this one. And this one doesn't have reversible, but you do have the DVD and the Blu-ray. This was another horror anthology that I quite enjoyed. So two of these are direct. There's 3 segments, and then there's a wraparound segment that's kind of ridiculous. It's got John Carpenter in it, one of the very few John Carpenter like acting roles. And I can't say he 100% like sold me on his acting, but I guess he's fun for the part and the character that he's playing. You had 2 that were directed by John Carpenter. Then the last one was directed by Tobe Hooper. I actually, I'm a big Tobe Hooper fan, so this kind of pains me to say. I think I like the Tobe Hooper one the least, and that one also has Mark Hamill in it. But the first one I thought was the best. The one that's got God, what is his name? Carradine, the Revenge of the Nerds guy. Is it Bobby Carradine? I think it's Bobby Carradine, but he's in the first one, and he's really great in that segment. But it's a really cool one. The gas station attendant that kind of, has to overcome this homicidal maniac. It's really good. It's very tense as well. And I like the second one too, with the hair and stuff. I thought that one's very short though. Like, I was kind of surprised how it kind of ended very abruptly, I feel like. But it was pretty good. Yeah, Body Bags, solid horror anthology. I just didn't love the last one, but it was still good. And it was, I think it was the longest segment as well of this one. But yeah, Body Bags, solid horror anthology. I enjoyed it. It's one I'll definitely return to at some point. And two movies directed by John. It's really a John Carpenter, Toby Hooper collaboration. So very cool. And I think that this one was made for TV. I think it actually came out on HBO back in the day. I could be wrong, but I think that's the story of Body Bags. Next up, my wife and I talked about both of these pretty in depth on our channel. So go over to our channel, check out our recent 13 Days of Horror ranking, and we talked about Train to Busan and The Wailing. And all I'll say right here is we watched both of these on 4K. Really solid 4Ks for sure. But what I'll say right here is Train to Busan, I loved. And this one totally for me lived up to the hype. I loved Train to Busan. I thought it was so good. One of the best zombie movies I've ever seen. I loved it. The Wailing, I appreciated it more than I loved it. I liked it, and this is a movie that's very interesting in some of the stuff and the themes that it tries to inject, in particularly like the third act of the movie. Like you think it's going one way, and like you're almost sure what it's going to be, and then it just pulls the rug out from under you, and then you're like, I'm not sure about that. That was a little off, but it is kind of, some of the imagery is really cool. And I don't know, like I wanted to love this movie and I did not, but this is one that there's more to it than I feel like I picked up on the first time. It may be one I have to return to at some point. But I did like The Wailing, but I did not love it like I love Train to Busan. Both South Korean horror films, both came out in 2016, I believe, so the same year. They're about ready to celebrate their 20 or 10th anniversary. So that's pretty cool. But The Wailing and Train to Busan, both, I mean, look, objectively, they're both great films. I would recommend both of them for sure. Next up, I don't know if I could like legitimately recommend this movie, but The Release by Vinegar Syndrome, I can definitely recommend. That is Spookies from Vinegar Syndrome. This one's interesting, and it feels like it was such a long time ago I watched this. But you got this group that goes up to this, haunted house in the middle of the night. They kind of stumble upon it. There's weird things going on with an old man and a young bride. The movie feels, when you're watching it, extremely like disjointed and disconnected because there's like two different stories that are going on that seemingly have nothing to do with each other. But then you know why when you watch the documentary of Spookies, which is great, and what I would 100% recommend this release for. Twisted Tale, The Unmaking of Spookies, a feature-length documentary, including a commentary track as well. So this has a documentary in it that I think is longer than the movie, and it kind of explains, like, if you find it interesting to like go into objectively like bad, horrible movie, and learn about the backstory and maybe why that movie didn't turn out the best. Like if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it is a really fascinating story about how this movie was created, how the directors and writers got this movie off the ground, how they were in the middle of making it, and they kind of got the rug pulled out from under them by the producer. They eventually left the project. Somebody different came in to finish the movie. And that's why the movie feels so disjointed. It feels like almost two movies in one, and two stories that have nothing to do with each other. And it's because it was two different filmmakers with two different visions, and they did two different things, but they just kind of kept ideas from the past filmmakers in there. So it just feels so like random and out of whack. Not that the movie would have been a masterpiece if they would have fully realized their vision. I don't think it would have been, but it probably would have been a little bit better than what it became. For sure. It felt like there was too many cooks in the kitchen. There was too many different ideas, and none of them really made sense with each other. There is some really good practical special effects in here, though. Like the movie did have kind of a budget to it, and they did utilize that and create some really cool like creature effects and zombie stuff in the movie. So it's definitely worth checking out. It is not what you would call a great film. But you do have two discs here. You got the feature on one disc, and then you got the documentary and all the special features on the other. You got reversible cover art here. I don't know which one's the Vinegar Syndrome artwork. I think this is the Vinegar Syndrome artwork, but I think this one had a slipcover back in the day. That is sold out by now. I think you can still get this. I mean, when I picked this up, this was probably like 12 or 13 bucks I got Spookies for, but which I can recommend the release for that price, but it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie, but if you're kind of like interested and fascinated by like really bad movies and how they get made in the process and want to hear a really good story, I would check out Spookies. And I mean, the work they put into this, guys, like this is why Vinegar Syndrome is so revered, is because they take a movie like this, they dig it up and they tell the story about it and they give the movie like a second life on physical media. And that's what's so cool about physical media just in general to me. So that's Spookies. Next up, let's talk about Society. Really, cool, interesting body horror film directed by Brian Usna. My wife and I also talked about this on our channel. This movie's got very smart, very thematically rich social and political commentary to it. And I do think that Brian Usna definitely did a good job of that in the movie. I mean, it is very much a commentary on the rich and the weirdness of some of the stuff that happens behind closed doors. Also, how the rich treat the poor and some of the things that goes with that, which goes into some very wild, like weird territory in this movie. I'll say this, like if you're squeamish at all, the third act of this movie is going to get you a little bit sick to your stomach. Like it really goes for it in the third act, but it's totally worth it. If you want to see where movies like The Substance came from, you go back and watch a movie like Society, because this is where the origin of all that's like super gnarly, like body horror stuff comes from, is this film, and it totally goes for it. So I enjoyed Society a lot. Thought it was a really good movie. The Blu-ray looked incredible. Arrow did this back in the day. Great job. And there's some really great special features and interviews with a lot of the actors that were in this film as well on this Arrow release. So really great release by Arrow Video that I would write. Let me do the reversible for you guys. There is 2 discs in this set as well. So yeah, a lot. This thing is really stacked with special features, which is pretty cool. And yeah, this definitely kind of spoils the ending, the artwork, but some really cool stuff with that movie. The New York Ripper. This is a Fulci film I've been wanting to check out for the longest time. This is a really gnarly, grotesque slasher film, and I really enjoyed it a lot. There's a ton of interviews on here too. I'm looking on the back. This is a Blue Underground 4K, and the 4K to this looked fantastic. But yeah, just very dark, very sleazy. I love movies like this, like Cruisin' by William Friedkin's one of my favorites. This is definitely kind of in line with that. Just kind of a New York City, like sleazy, grindhouse, grimy, gross, like feel to it. And just a really cool slasher with some really like over the top, gore and violence in it as well. But a really good movie that I enjoyed. And like I said, the 4K, I compared it to the Blu-ray in this. If you got the Blu-ray looks fine, but the 4K really, like, Blue Underground's kind of known for doing great 4Ks, but this is like one of their best. I think, like, I love the zombie 4K. It looks great, but this one, I don't know, when I was watching, I'm like, this might be the best Fulci 4K. Like, it really might be. It was a spectacular 4K for sure. But really cool movie. I enjoyed that. Slaughter High, it was okay. I thought this was okay. Honestly, this was like maybe this is the second one that I watched. The first one that I watched is on the bottom because I think I have these in order of when I watched them. But Slaughter High was fine. It was like a high school slasher film. There's a past. The interesting thing about this movie is you have all these teenage characters in the beginning of the film, and there's something that happens involving them and a nerd, and tragedy occurs, and then they flash forward like 15 years and they're coming back together, and they're all played by the same actors, and they all look exactly the same. Like they try to do little things to age them a little bit, but it just doesn't quite work for me. So you have all these actors that look like they were 30, supposed to be like, 17 or 18 or whatever. Then you flash forward and you got all these 30-year-olds, and I guess that works. And that's why they did it that way. But it just feels weird. And it feels like almost no time has passed, but maybe like 6 months when it's supposed to be like 15 years, and it just doesn't feel right. So the whole movie just kind of feels a little off to me just because of that. But, it's a nerd that was tormented in the past coming back to, basically, it's a slasher film. So he was picked on. He's coming back to get his revenge. That's what the movie is. And it all takes place in a high school. But it's okay. It's fine. I didn't love it, but it's fine. And the Blu-ray looked good. There's a lot of really good features in here as well. There's an audio commentary and all that cool stuff. Was there reversible on this one? No, no reversible, but the artwork on it is really cool. And this is probably like the old, because this is Vestron and they usually do this, but this is probably the old VHS artwork on this one. Next up, guys, this people tried to tell me not to watch this. They tried to, and I'll give you guys credit out there in my live stream. People like, Ken, do not put this one on your list. There are people DMing me after the fact on Instagram being like, you need to take that off your list and add this movie. And this is the first damn movie I watched, just to get it out of the way. It's a movie directed by Rob Zombie, which brings upon its own stuff with that, its own baggage. The Lords of Salem. And for a long time, I've heard, guys, that this is one of Rob Zombie's most underrated films, most underappreciated movies. And it's like a witch cult movie. I usually like those kind of films. I thought this was awful. It really was. It really was awful. And look, Rob Zombie's Halloween is the worst Rob Zombie movie to me. This one's probably his second worst, because I really love House of a Thousand Corpses. Devil's Rejects I still really enjoy, even though I've got some problems with it. Halloween 2, I actually like that movie. I don't think it's great, but I like it. You know, Three from Hell, I even like that one. I still haven't seen 31. I need to see that. The Munsters has its own charm to it. It's not great, but it's fine. It's watchable. This I found to be almost unwatchable. I thought Sherry Moon Zombie was terrible. Like, terrible. Like, to me, Sherry Moon Zombie can only play baby. That's it. And I mean, Michael, she's not bad in Halloween. She's not bad in Halloween. I don't mean to say that. I thought she was terrible in this. I thought she was totally unbelievable. I didn't like her at all. I didn't like her character. I didn't like anybody in this movie. I thought they were all terrible. Maybe that's the point. I thought the direction was horrible. I thought the editing was atrocious. I couldn't even make out, like, or really even understand what was going on. Nothing made sense. Everything just seemed to happen for shock value's sake. And I didn't like this movie at all. And I honestly, like, I remember almost nothing about it other than I just thought it was terrible. So I really hated my experience watching The Lords of Salem, and everybody was right. It's weird because this is maybe like one of my first like 20 Blu-rays I ever bought, and I don't even know why it's one of the first like 20 Blu-rays. But I remember this one's been in the collection for a long ass time. But I finally watched it. So there you go, guys. But that is those are the movies that I watched, guys, for the spooky season. In addition to all the other, you know, movies I watched and reviewed and things like that. I watched 40 movies, I think, in the month of October. So I wasn't like slacking, but I couldn't get it to 71, I guess, to watch the other 21 that I needed to. But thank you all so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description. And we'll see you in 2026, maybe another failed 31 Days of Horror. I'll try again next year. And we'll see you next time.